Hello everybody, it's Hawk here. It's been a while, but it's Halloween, and you know me, I have to come crawling out of the woodwork for Halloween. Now, this, as you can tell by the title, is not a normal video of mine. Typically I'm talking about cryptids, or fantasy things, or post-apocalypses, not Pokemon. However, you're going to find out as I go about this video, this is not so far out of my wheelhouse, or is a strange setting. Now, for those of you who don't know, and honestly I wouldn't be shocked if a decent number of my subscribers are unaware of Pokemon Colosseum. It's not in the mainstream of Pokemon. It's a really popular GameCube game that is a fantastic offshoot of Gen 3, which is Sapphire, Ruby, and Emerald, for those of you who don't know. And I'm going to give you a very brief overview of the setting, so you can kind of have a concept of what the hell's going on. So, OR is based off of the American Southwest, so Arizona, New Mexico, and like Southern California, like that kind of deserty, mountainous area. That's kind of the vibe they're going for. And it takes a lot of Western tropes and then puts them into a Pokemon game, which is very neat. Now, things to know about OR. It is very deserty. It is very extremely sparsely populated. There's not a lot of towns involved, and there are no wild Pokemon in the first game. The reason for that is stated as ecological disaster, or, you know, they all ran off because really bad things happened. You could go with a plague, Mount Battle got really active, which would be a little weird, because you'd still expect to find things like Slugma and Numel, and Coughing. Basically volcanic Pokemon, you'd expect to see them up there, but they're not. I have my own theory as to what's causing them to all have faffed off, but we'll get to that later. So it's almost like it's a post-apocalyptic Pokemon setting. Wow, are we surprised that I like this? I mean, look what the hell they drive on with their motorcycles. Technically it's a unicycle, it only has one wheel, but the front part hovers, so it's a motorcycle. Anyway, that thing looks awesome and totally does not look like it belongs in some weird sci-fi post-apocalyptic show, so that's what's going on here. OR is a mess, and it is crime-ridden. There's a cartel. It's called Team Snag'em. They steal Pokemon. They steal Pokemon, and my understanding is before this they would generally hold them for ransom, and then they would get a bunch of money that way. They're a kidnapping ring. Kind of like Team Rocket, though Team Rocket was doing a bunch of other stuff. Now, who are the actual most terrifying team in Pokemon, as my title has suggested? We're 3 minutes in and I haven't gotten to them yet. Because it's not Team Snag'em. It is. Can you read that? I hope you can read that. Well, I hope you can read that. Team Cypher. I need a bigger marker. Anyway, Team Cypher, why are they the most terrifying? What's up with them? Now, if you've played the game, you might have some ideas, and I am going to reference XD Gale of Darkness, the sequel to Colosseum, because it's going to sort of continue to hammer my point home about why these guys are so horrifying. So, Team Cypher, let's get down to it. So, in the case of Colosseum, there are only a handful of towns. Fennec, Pyrite, and a gate village, and then the Under. Mount Battle is a location, but I am not calling it a town, because the only thing that's there is Mount Battle itself. And the Martin Pokemon Center, right? That's it. There's nothing here. It's more of like a challenge area than an actual town, because there's no like living space, so I'm not calling it a town. Now those of you who are fans of XD will know that there's Gateon Port. That's not in the first game, so I'm not going to talk about it. I'll talk about it later, but not now. So there are those 4 locations. Now, Fennec is the big main city. It's very nice. It's based off Phoenix, Arizona. It's got a big fountain in the center. It's very pretty looking. That's the major city, I would call that one. It's not really a proper major city in Colosseum, just because of the way the game flows. It has the Fennec Stadium in it, or Fennec Coliseum. They don't have stadiums here, they're Coliseums. Slightly different. And they're sort of the safe place, as it were, in this whole crazy wasteland. Now, Pyrite is the rough mining town, is sort of the vibe that's going off there. There is Pyrite Coliseum there. And there's no Pokemon Center in the first game. There's a hotel you have to pay for, or you can just leave and go to Fennec and heal for free. Or, you know, once you get access to the Coliseum, you can heal there. They have a little healing machine. Or you can just find a computer and put Pokemon in and take them out. Anyway, Pyrite's a little rough. It is controlled by Duking. Sort of. because Mirror B, put him up here, controls Duking, because he has stolen Duking's Plusle, his beloved little Plusle, and is threatening to do horrible things to it if Duking doesn't do what he wants. In short, he has kidnapped one of Duking's family members and is now threatening them to control Pyrite. He uses that to hand out Shadow Pokemon to the winners of the Coliseum. Now, I have just said Shadow Pokemon. What the hell is a Shadow Pokemon? That is the next part of this. I'm going in a very weird order here. This list is going to look like a mess. It's fine, okay? I'm just kind of going through how you find out the stuff in the game. Sort of. You would have found out about Shadow Pokemon earlier. We're getting to Shadow Pokemon now. So, Shadow Pokemon are Pokemon that have had their hearts closed. Basically, they've had their aura fucked with. They have been completely closed off emotionally, they can't feel anything anymore, and they are now just murder machines. They don't think, they don't feel, they have no desires, they have no wants. You tell them to do something and they do it. This includes attacking people. They will attack people, they don't care about that. This is what Cypher has been doing. They have been taking normal Pokemon, and then they turn them into Shadow Pokemon. Mirror B controls Pyrite Town and is now, I'm going to put that in here, controls Pyrite Town and is now disseminating them into the large populace in order to see what happens, so people can kind of get a vibe for them and see how this goes. This also indebts them to Cypher, because, and this is another part, Shadow Pokemon are more powerful than normal Pokemon. I'm not going to write that in there, it's sort of implied. Now that's not just in-game babble to go, oh yes, Shadow Pokemon are just better than normal Pokemon. Because they kind of don't seem to be, they're just an example of their species, right? I mean, they have access to Shadow Rush, which is a move that is neutral against everything, which is always nice. I mean, having pure neutrality against literally every target, it's always useful. It's a decently powerful move, if you're okay with just a physical move. However, because of the way the game works, it is factually true that every Shadow Pokemon in the game is more powerful than every other Pokemon. Except, theoretically, the two starting Pokemon that the player gets. The reason for this is simple. Shadow Pokemon are the only catchable Pokemon in the game. As such, Shadow Pokemon are generated as per wild Pokemon. Meaning, they have a randomized nature, and they have randomized IVs. And they can theoretically be shiny. Yes, you can shiny hunt in Coliseum if you want. Go have fun doing that. I wouldn't do it. It sounds like a giant pain in the ass. Anyway, because of this, they have better stats than every NPC Pokemon. Because all NPC Pokemon have a 0 for all IVs. Now, the difference between a 0 and a 31 IV is not, like, mind-blowing. It's not like, holy crap, it's a 50% increase in power. It's not that big. It is notable. Like, you will notice a difference between a 0 IV in HP and a 15. If they're the same level, there's a very notable difference. Like, there will be several HP different between the two of them. So, every time you see a Shadow Pokemon, it is literally the most powerful Pokemon on their team on that front. It might not literally be, because they might actually have something with a higher base stat total, but that's not my point. The point is they are, if there's a Shadow Apom in the game, it is the best Apom in that game. Done. Because no other Apom has IVs above 0, meaning that is the best of all possible Apoms. Just because it's above 0. So, they're making Shadow Pokemon, alright? And that's what Mirror B's doing. Next we go to Mount Battle. This is where the plot takes you. And you fight a guy called Dakeem. Dakeem is huge, and he's terrifying. He's kind of Cypher's enforcer. Sort of the vibe I get off of him. Now, he beats up a bunch of people at Mount Battle, you have to fight him, and he's a giant pain in the rear end. This is not actually where we're getting terrifying parts. Next, we go to Venus. Venus is horrifying. Venus controls the Under. Alright? And by controls the Under, it's a cult. It is a, like you know how people, like, basically worship, like, crazy celebrity idols? That's what she's done to the Under. She controls the Under by being a crazy idol, and has effectively turned the Under into the cult of Venus. It is very messed up. It is very, very messed up. Okay? So there's an entire town that she's got convinced, under Pyrite, that they're it. everyone else is crazy, all this other shit. You gotta stay down here. It's safe down here. You must do what Venus says. It's all better. She loves you and cares for you. Nah, bitch is crazy. That bitch is nuts. Alright? So far, this is like, okay, this is kind of freaky, but like, there's weird cult behavior going on in other games. Like, I mean, the entirety of Team Galactic is a bunch of nihilistic whack jobs who are trying to get Cyrus to rewrite the entirety of the universe because he's a rampant internet nihilist. Or, you know, X and Y, Team Flare. They think they are going to be a bunch of Malthusian fascists, but I'm pretty sure Lysander's actually, again, just a nihilist who wants to wipe out all of existence, including himself. I don't get the vibes he wants to control the world after the ashes. I'm convinced he wants to kill himself. That's... And, you know, he's too much of a narcissist to just do it himself. He has to take everything out with him, because if he's miserable, everyone's miserable. There's your narcissism on that guy. The point is cults are not new to Pokemon. The difference is, this is the only cult. It's just Venus. Okay? Mirror B, if we had, like, an anime here, he'd probably be running, like, a casino or a big dance club or something as his front, because he just likes dancing and stuff. He is terrifying. He is very threatening. Because 4 Ludicolo's in the rain is actually terrifying. But he is just disseminating shadow Pokemon. She is controlling the Under as a large-scale base of operations, because it's a safe location to work from. Dakeem is the enforcer. Then we get Ein, who is the primary shadow scientist, who has researched this entire process and is attempting to perfect it, because he wants to create the ultimate weapon. That's sort of his whole motivation here. Now, why are these all so terrifying? Because so far this is like Team Rocket mixed with a cult, right? Well, we get to the last part here. Because now you've probably realized, well, I mentioned Team Snag'em a while ago. What the fuck are they doing? Snag'em is controlled by Cypher. Team Cypher controls another team who steals Pokemon for them in order to continue their research. Most of the population does not know Team Cypher exists. Team Cypher is effectively the fucking CIA. You may get some tinfoil hats on now, okay? I'm gonna get a little weird with this. But the way Team Cypher works, they control another team as a deniable asset. And they have now control of Pyrite, the Under, and because of their boss, spoiler alerts here if you care about the spoilers for a 20-year-old game, Evice in Fennec City, who is the mayor of Fennec City, by the way. He's pretending to be the mayor. He's pretending to be SK'd. But the point is if Vice controls Fennec, out of the 4 towns that exist, Cypher has direct or indirect control of 3 of them. And they attempted to take out a gate by destroying the Relic Stone, one of the only things in the whole game that is capable of purifying shadow Pokemon. What I am telling you is in most games, you show up and you have to fight them as they are attempting to gain power. Cypher already won. Cypher owns Ore. They showed up, co-opted the villain team that was already here. Basically, they owned the cartel. They then took over a seat of government, took over another town, and then through blackmail and threats, control another town. There is no one left to fight them except Wes, who is effectively the lone gunman. Wes is basically Clint Eastwood. He's wandered on in. He's the complete random oddball guy that they never could have predicted, who then runs ransack through their whole plants. Okay? This is why Cypher's horrifying. They're effectively pulling the CIA special. They've co-opted an entire region, they control it themselves, and are using it and all of its resources to create weapons so that they can continue this trend elsewhere. Because if they were to go anywhere else with these shadow Pokemon, they will be able to co-opt all of those locations. Now there's also a theory I have that they're working with Team Rocket, because in the anime there's some things that kind of line up. Butch and Cassidy catch a whole bunch of Love Disc, and then it's the guy they're doing it for says it's for a client. And Lovrina in XD who is another Cypher admin. I'm not going to go write all them down, but Loverina is sort of Venus replacement, except she's a scientist. And she has a Shadow Love disc. Now, there's more to it than that, because the scientist that Butch and Cassidy are working for is also doing weird shit involving a Lugia, and this crazy, like, berserk helmet thingy, which turns them into an easily controlled, but violent killing machine. Wow, doesn't that sound fucking familiar? And it's like a really ghetto, rednecky version of Shadow Pokemon, except it's a head thingy, and when you break it, it stops functioning. Then there's the fact that Iron Mask is in the 4th Pokemon movie, and he's sort of got like this temporary shadification ball thing that he uses on like a Tyranitar and on Celebi. So that kind of, again, seems like Team Rocket's trying to sort of figure out how the Shadow Pokemon thing works, and they never quite get it right. Probably after Team Cypher gets collapsed in ore, because frankly they owned the whole region. I mean, they were building this giant tower called Realgum Tower, which was going to generate a ton of income for them. And then that was the whole point, actually. They were trying to do it to make a bunch of money, so they could continue to fund themselves here. So I wouldn't be shocked if they were, you know, dealing with Team Rocket. There's no reason for them to deal with any of the other groups, because the other groups are crazy. And, you know, want to catch giant legendaries and then blow up the whole world. Also, by the way, I didn't mention that they control legendaries. Yeah, no, I didn't. I kind of skipped that part. Yeah, they just straight up control legendaries. The 3 legendary beasts of Johto, Entei, Raikou, and Suicune, are all in the first game, and they've all been shadowfied. And then in XD Gale of Darkness, the actual boss of Cypher, Greevil, not this guy, this dude is a regional head. Ivice is only in charge of ore. He's sort of the whole regional director of this thing. The Grandmaster of Cypher, who is off doing God knows what, God knows where, comes back 5 years later and re-kicks this all off. He gets himself 4 new admins, gets everything running again, gets a giant factory out in the desert set up, gets a dude in charge of Fennec again. Well, sort of, he's trying to get him in there. All from his giant evil island off the coast with a huge fucking storm surrounding it, so that the only way in is a submarine going under the frickin' wave action. Or the surf, that's what I'm trying to think of. The horrifying surf that's going on. Okay, that's what's going on there. And then they have caught the 3 legendary birds, Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno, and have perfectly shadified a Lugia. They have a box art legendary, and they've shadified it. To the point that normal de-shadification, or purification, doesn't work, and you have to do a whole bunch of weird shit in order to purify it. They did a very, very thorough job on this thing. Okay, so that's terrifying, because they're not actually gone. This is only one... I mean, this is the primary group, this is the big group, and I presume Greevil is off somewhere else, you know, establishing more bases and establishing more people, and he's getting ready to go there. And then when this all falls apart, he has to, you know, take all of the resources he's been attempting to get somewhere else and then bring it back in order to retake their proper control. And he does. He gets all this shit back up and running in a very short amount of time. It is horrible. Like, in 5 years, he's rebuilt the whole damn thing, and he's making a play to run a coup on ore. Again. Like, they pulled this off. And you want to know the most horrifying part here? Okay, so we got all of that, alright? All of this horrifying shit where Greevil has managed all of this. He's got all his legends and all that crap back. He is a terrifying threat. They also kidnapped the entire population of Fennec and replaced them with disguised Cypher soldiers. An entire city has had their population doppelgangered. Just think about that. Who else does that? No one else has pulled that off. Team Cypher, I'm just going to say it, they're the CIA/KGB of the Pokemon world. They don't need to overtly show up and conquer you through strength of arms. They're fully capable of it, but they don't need to. They will just use Snag'em and other groups as controlled opposition. They'll show up in other regions, nag some sort of functional cartel of some kind, and have them do their bidding for them under threat of complete annihilation. On top of that, if they need to get overt, they can. They can just kidnap a whole damn town. Kidnap the whole fucking town, hold them in a hole in the basement, and then replace everybody with disguised operatives. Okay? I'm gonna write that down. Replace whole town. They can replace an entire town with their own operatives. Alright, that is terrifying. On top of that, if they need to start a cult to get the locals on board, they're capable of doing so. Venus has done so. Lavrina could probably pull it off too. She's pretty good. She's just too much of a scientist. She doesn't like doing it. I mean, she'll do it later when she doesn't have anything else to do, but that's not my point. The thing is, this is why Cypher's horrifying. Okay? I know I've said that a lot, and this is very spastic, because this is me. Again, I don't do scripts. You all know this. This is me just listening to a man ramble in his basement while gesticulating wildly at a whiteboard. If I did this scripted, this would lose half the entertainment value. Because you'd lose me, losing my damn mind. And that's, where most of this fun comes from. But Cypher is horrifying because of this. Just this list of things. And I know this list of things just sounds crazy. But no one else pulls off stuff. Other people pull off things close to this, alright? Some people have legendaries. I mean, plenty of box art legendaries have shown up in the hands of villains. I mean, Gestus went and got Curium. In the first game, in the first version, in the non-sequels in Gen 5, he had either Zekrom or Reshiram, depending on which game you're playing. So he's got it, but he's also not technically a villain. He's an unwitting dupe. Gestus is the actual villain, but I'm just saying, Gestus gets a super crazy legendary later. It's fine. I mean, other people get their hands on him. I mean, Rose is technically running Eternatus, but Rose is a fucking idiot who I can't take seriously. God, that was fucking terrible, right? What happened to this? What happened to this shit? If Ice doesn't even have a legendary, if Ice has a fucking Tyranitar, which is still terrifying, by the way, I would like to point that out. If Ice is horrifying. Like, that fight is nuts. Okay, just the fights in general in Colosseum are really rough. Partially because you have a very limited roster of Pokemon, and secondly because they let the AI do weird things. Like, again, I don't have Dakeem written up here, but Dakeem's got a really fun one where if he's got 2 Pokemon, and all of the ones, he's got 3 Pokemon on his team, all of which have Earthquake and Protect. And anyone who knows anything about double battles knows exactly what's going to happen here. He has a specific AI code written that if he's got 1 Pokemon with Earthquake and 1 with Protect, he will alternate them. So, like, his Golem will do Earthquake, his Metang will do Protect. Metang will do Earthquake, Golem will do Protect. And he can just keep doing this back at you. And if you don't guess right and knock the one off, it kind of sucks. And then he drops an Entei on you, and that's a bad time, okay? Entei coming and punching you in the face is a bad time. Remember, this is Gen 3. Entei's stat total is fucking terrifying. And as such, Ice showing up with a fucking Tyranitar is horrifying. He also has a Slowking and a Slacking. Why is this terrifying? The Slowking knows Skill Swap and takes Truant from the fucking Slacking. And if you don't kill the Slowking, it gives you Truant. Enjoy that. Enjoy the Truantless Slacking that is now here to murder your entire team. Okay? Again, for non-Pokemon fans, I just babble off a whole bunch of stuff, and you're here listening to me ramble about the Pokemon CIA. But I'm just saying, all you need to know is Slacking is a giant ground sloth, and the only reason it's not kind of nuts, it is nuts, is because its ability makes it only act every other turn. So if you remove that, this thing's got the stat total of box art legendaries. And they're spread out pretty well. That's really all you need to know. Anywho, on my random ramblings here, Team Cypher. What happens in the Pokemon world if the CIA completely removes itself from acting in the interests of a government agency and just turns into a pure, undisputed rogue organization doing whatever the hell it wants, and that is controlling the world because they think you're an idiot and they think they should be in charge. And this is what you get. You get them kidnapping people's Pokemon, turning them into war machines, and then continuing to snowball with this by then co-opting other groups so that they are hidden from everyone else. That's why I think they're so threatening. Everyone else is kind of in the open and people know about them. Like even Team Rocket, people are aware of Team Rocket. In the same way people are aware of the mob, right? Team Cypher, at the beginning of the game, is legitimately a question whether they're there or not. Snag 'em is the obvious game. Like, they're like the Bloods and the Crips and the you know, Sinaloa and the mob and all this other stuff. Like, they exist. People know that for a fact. Cypher is the weird, freaky thing that, you know, tinfoil hat people rant about in their basement in front of a camera. They may or may not exist. Turns out they do exist, and they're performing all sorts of fucked up things on Pokémon and turning them into horrifying war machines. I realize this is basically Pokemon MK Ultra the way I'm phrasing it. That's a little messed up. I wasn't even intending to do that, but that's kind of what's going on here. But yes, there's a reason I make the parallels here, because again, they pull the CIA special, they show up, coup a government of Or. I mean, I don't care how fucked up the government of Or is, they control the one major dude, and then go from there. And then when they show up in the second game, they're just attempting to get all this back. And they have the ability to do so. Alright, and the thing is, people know they exist in the second game. It's not even a question. They attack a lab. They're really overt about it, actually. They basically turn into a paramilitary organization in that one, and they're just trying to get all their shit back. They don't care anywhere near as much about subtlety this time around, which is kind of why the whole Fennec abduction thing is so fucked up, because they just show up and kidnap an entire town, and then replace them with doppelgangers. Which is very out of character for how they've been acting through that second game. They've been far more overt about their activities. Which again just shows what these guys are capable of. They are extremely subtle when they want to be, and they have no problem acting through multiple fucking, multiple shell groups. They don't care about that. They don't need the glory. They just need to win. And in the case of a lot of it, they kind of already did. And then we get to the end of Gale of Darkness, and Greevil surrenders because he doesn't want to blow up the island with all of his followers on it. The man still has some amount of humanity left in him where he's not going to kill all of his loyal soldiers just so he can escape. One of his sons was fine with that, though, and wants to completely rebuild Cypher. They built in a third game. They built in sequel bait for a third game, and I really wanted that to happen. Especially now that I'm older and I, can appreciate how wild Cypher is as far as, Pokemon teams go. That dude, as heartless and cruel as he is, would have made a fantastic next villain. I don't know what Neo Cypher would have been like, because again, XD Gale of Darkness, that's not Neo Cypher, that's still Cypher, that's the same organization. They didn't die. It's kind of like how Team Rocket in Gen 2 is still the same Team Rocket. The other guys have piled on. The difference is the main guy is still here. I don't have Griever written on here. But if Ice is the only one gone, he's still in jail, and they don't even care. They don't give a fuck, he failed. We're getting a new guy. So, I hope you enjoyed my crazy, rambly bullshit, because that's what this was. This was a very half-baked plan. I do like this game. I love Coliseum. It's my favorite Pokemon game, hands down. It still looks good even today. I mean, yes, it obviously is a fucking game from the early 2000s, but, it still looks nice, and it still plays nice, and it's a fun game. And it's a very good challenge if you've gotten kind of bored of Pokemon. You want to go back and not have to impose a million weird rules on you. The game actually does have some challenge to it just because of, the structure of the game itself. So it's really good fun if you can get your hands on it. However that may be. And I really have always enjoyed Team Cypher as the team. Because they take the normal, sort of mundane evil of Team Rocket and then just take it another step further. Team Cypher doesn't feel like some fantastical whack job. Again, Team Galactic or Team Flare or really any of the other, later gen evil teams, They don't feel like that. They feel extremely mundane and just, conventional assholes. I mean, even the Shadow Pokemon thing doesn't come off as, some Saturday morning cartoon shit. That comes off as, oh, no, they've actually pulled it off and it does work. This is an actual functional thing that has actual tangible benefits to it. I mean, why the hell wouldn't you do that? And so they come off all the more threatening because of it. And then as I got older, I realized they had already controlled the entire country of Or. No other villain team can say that. The closest is Team Rocket, and they just had a lot of control. You know, they were sneaking around all over the place. But that was the mob. They still had to hide from the authorities. There are no authorities. Sheriff Sherrill's the only one left. And he's one sheriff. These guys control everything else, so as long as if Ice kept hiding things, which wasn't difficult, what the fuck was anyone gonna do? It took Wes showing up and running a roughshod all over them by being that much more powerful than they are to break this whole thing apart. It's kind of wild. Also, Ho-Oh had to show up. Yeah, Ho-Oh showed up and shot a helicopter down when Ice was trying to run after the last battle. Yeah, I had nowhere to put that. I'm just putting that in now because it's wild. But anyway, this has been my long ramble about Team Cypher and why it's the absolute best team in Pokemon. Fight me. Okay, you don't have to fight me, but I'm curious. What's your favorite team in Pokemon? For whatever reason, I don't care if you like Aqua and Magma because you like the color blue or red. I mean, I think Archie and Maxie are funny. They're kind of stupid, but they are funny. But again, Team Cypher. Great uniforms, terrifying, extremely competent. Also terrifying mechanically just because of the way the game works. Just very fun. Just a very fun villain, because I feel challenged by them the whole time. It's really good. It's really good stuff. Anyway, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. You guys know how this all works. And I will see you all later. Probably not with a Pokemon video, but I will see you guys all later.